Alright, so hello everybody. It's been a while. Just I think like a few weeks since I made a video. That's not important. I need to show you how you can improve your existing Windows installation to the point where it's even a bit more lightweight than Windows 7 in some cases. In some cases, I have to stress that. Not in all cases it's gonna be lighter, but it is gonna be much lighter. Everything will be much smoother. You'll see. So the first thing I want to talk about is the first few things you can do, which is the scripts right here. They will be under a different name. So bear that in mind. I have it like Ultra Optimize Windows 10. They're gonna be under a different name. Just don't panic. As long as you have these things right here, you should be fine. Do as this text file says you do, which is do the debloat Windows 10 thing first. So if you go over here, you're gonna see here a bunch of PowerShell things, and one thing to remember is if you go into PowerShell and let's say we want to run this one, we want to run this as an administrator, this is what you're gonna get. I recommend that you use the x86 one because it's, I believe, more like solid. It's gonna tell you something about your platform, don't worry about that. Oh, great. I managed to lock it up just by using it. Alright, so I cleaned it with CLS. We can make this smaller if we want, it doesn't matter for now. So the first thing we want to do is run these scripts one by one in the order as they are. But before we run that, we actually need to go into the directory. The simplest way to do that is using a command called cd, and then you want to go over here, click up here, copy it with Ctrl+C or right click and copy, it doesn't matter, and then right click with your mouse. Once you hit enter, you should be in the directory. A way you can check is that this string should say the directory that it's in. So this should be changed to something like this. It's not gonna be exactly the same, just make sure you're in that. A way you can make sure that you're in that is by using the directory command there. It's gonna list a bunch of files that are in the directory. You don't have to look at all of this, just consider on the names. If the names check out just like they are in the folder, which they do, you can continue on to the next step. So I'm going to clear the screen now, and before you run anything of that, I recommend that you run this command right here. It's all gonna be in that folder, you don't have to worry, it's all labeled, so you should know what to do. So you right click this, click copy, right click, hit enter. This is gonna ask you something to change execution policy, hit A, or capital A or lowercase a, it doesn't matter, just hit A and hit enter. This should allow it to execute all the scripts one by one. So how do you execute them? A way you can execute them is by doing a dot and a forward slash. This is a execution command, and since we've run it as an administrator, as you can see right here, it should work just fine. So dot and forward slash, and then type in the first 3 letters, and it should already list it out as block telemetry things. Now I said forward slash and it didn't do that for some reason, so I'm gonna switch my keyboard. Alright, there we go. So I did the forward slash, which I know it's a bit harder to see, but it has a bit of a yellow tint, but it has to be a dot and a forward slash that allows the file to be executed. Once you hit enter, it's going to do a lot of stuff. I'm not gonna record that since I've already did that. If some red stuff appears, don't worry, that's completely normal. And make sure to run one by one all of these scripts. Just be sure to run that one by one. Once you have done that, I'm going to go back into here, and then you will see this bat file, which is called the crap Windows 10. You right click it, and you have to run it as administrator. You click that, it's gonna ask you to run it. I'm not gonna do that, but what you should see is a command prompt which will do set a bunch of things up and just optimize it. And bear in mind, this is gonna get rid of the Photos app. So I recommend you get an alternative like InfraView, just a heads up, because it's gonna get rid of the Photos app and a bunch of other stuff. Be sure to check first if any of the things, like if you do not use any of the Metro apps, that's fine. However, if you use Photos, for example, from the Metro UI Photos app, I recommend that you get something like InfraView or something else to replace that, because it's not going to be there, it's going to be gone. One thing to bear in mind with using these scripts is if you use the Windows Store, this will completely remove it. So bear that in mind. If you don't want it to be removed, you can go into here, and there should be the remove default apps thing. If you click edit, it's gonna take a little while. It's gonna open up PowerShell ISC, which is a editor for PowerShell files, which these files are. Just don't panic. I want to show you how you can prevent the Windows Store from getting removed if you really need it, if it loads. But if you do not need it, it doesn't really matter. You can just run the script and it will get rid of it completely. So here's a bunch of things. This is the part where you uninstall the Microsoft Store. If you want to keep it, just put a hashtag over here. This is not what I wanted. So you just want to put a, great. You just want to put a hashtag over here, and once it's green, it's gonna be a sort of a comment, and this should keep the Windows Store in there. However, if you do not need it, just get rid of the hashtag, and it's gonna remove the Windows Store. And this is gonna remove all of the possible files that, well, not files, but this is going to remove all the apps, and here is going to set some registry keys to prevent them from being installed again, because that's very important. So once that's done, I do not need to save that. So I just want to show you how you can like prevent the Windows Store, for example, to be uninstalled. It's just a simple edit, it's nothing more. And once you've run the decrypt thing, all of this should be done. You should have at least like, I don't know, 5 or 6 gigs of extra space, even if not more. Bear in mind that if you had some Windows Store apps installed, I recommend that you uninstall those and then uninstall all the other with the script before you do anything else. This is gonna free up a lot of the resources by itself, but it's not gonna be enough. And that's where we go into actually the msconfig thing. Now, msconfig is a tool that's embedded into Windows. In newer versions of Windows, it's gonna show up as system configuration, like this. In Windows 7 or previous versions of Windows 10, it's gonna show up like msconfig or system configuration, depending on what version you run. Now again, we're going to run this as administrator. It's really important, and you should see a window like this. Now first things first, what you want to do is go into boot and go here and tick no GUI boot. This is fairly important. Just pick no GUI boot. It's going to help with reducing the strain. And then go into advanced options and tick number of processors and set it to the highest possible value, which in my case is 4. So after that's done, you can hit apply. It's fine. Next you go into services, and this is fairly important. So I'm going to show you which ones I've disabled actually. So if I list them by disable, don't worry, I'm going to list all the services that are safe to disable if you do not use them, but I'm gonna pick only the Microsoft ones. Actually, if you hide all these, if you hide all the Microsoft ones, you can see which ones are disabled. I disabled the Chrome services because you do not need them in order to run Chrome. The first two are from Avast Antivirus, so I need to have those. The Huawei High-Suit service is for my Huawei smartphone. The NVIDIA display containers are for my NVIDIA GPU, so I need those. And the Steam client service is for Steam itself. If you disable this, Steam won't run. So after I went over this, make sure that you know what you're disabling. So now if we untick the hide on Microsoft things and list them again by date of disabled, you'll see all the Microsoft things here, and these are the ones that are safe to disable. Now if you do use BitLocker drive encryption, leave this ticked on. If you do not use it, just take it off. Fax, do not use fax machines, just take those off. For Windows Phone cache, it's not needed, you can disable it, it's just extra process, it's an extra process that you do not need. Basically all of these are safe to disable, even the Windows Defender antivirus service, but bear in mind that once you disable this, this will then require you to download a different antivirus software, which in my case I would recommend you to get Avast. It's a free antivirus software and works real great. And one interesting thing is, once you install Avast on a clean installation of Windows 10, it's going to disable Windows Defender, just a little note. So you do not technically need to do this step. I recommend to just stay safe, just disable it with this. One important thing to go through is to the startup things. I have it on my second screen right here, so I'm going to move it here. As you can see, I do not have much. However, this is for my keyboard that I use, so I have to have that enabled. And here's for Avast, I have that enabled, but I do not need these two at all, so we can leave those disabled. If you for some reason have a bunch of things here, just make sure to check if you do not need it and just disable it. It's gonna help a lot with lower end CPUs that have problems with running even like Windows itself. It's gonna help a lot. Even by disabling like almost all of these services, it's gonna help a lot. So just bear that in mind, and you can then hit apply, hit OK, and it's gonna ask you to reboot. Just reboot, come back to this video, and we can continue to the next step. So the next step is the Windows features. Now the way I like to go about this is to go to the control panel. As you can see it open up right here. And one thing I recommend you to go to is the programs and features, so click that. And here you should see turn Windows features on or off. You click that. This is going to open up the list of Windows features. Now here's the fun part, and this really helps a lot if you use a low-end system. I'm gonna resize this so you can have a better look. So one thing I recommend you to have disabled if needed is this one, the Windows Foundation things. You don't need those, you can just disable the Windows Communication Foundation. You can disable both of these, you do not need those. Leave the Net Framework 4.8 alone, don't touch that. If you disable this, none of the applications that you use are gonna work, so leave it as it is. So leave Net Framework 4.8 advanced services just like they are. You can disable the Active Directory, Lightweight Directory, Services, Containers, Data Center Bridging, Device Lockdown, Guarded Host, Hyper-V. You can disable all of these. Again, I'm gonna have those in the video description for you to check out. In the media features, disable Windows Media Player, not gonna need that. If you do, however, use Windows Media Player, leave this ticked on. I do not use it, so I'm gonna leave it ticked off. Here you're gonna have to expand the Microsoft Message Queue server core. Untick all of these, and untick these decom proxy. You do not need that. Microsoft Print to PDF, it's really good to have that, because Chrome, when you try to save a website, actually uses that to save it as a PDF. So I recommend to leave this on. It's not actually eating any resources unless you're saving something to a PDF. So bear that in mind. The multi-point connector, you can disable that, you do not need that. Print and document services. I recommend that you untick all of these, and you can also I recommend having these on if you scan documents. In my work case, I do use a scanner, so you have to have this. However, if you know you're not gonna scan anything in your life, you can untick that. However, in my case, I'm gonna leave that ticked. Remote differential corporation API support, you can disable that. Services for NFS, the Network File System Protocol, you can disable that, you don't need that. These are some of things, NTCP, IP things, so leave those on. If you disable those, it's gonna cause a bunch of problems. Telnet client, TFTP client, virtual machine platform, you can disable those. If you can, disable this. However, in my case, it's not supported in my configurations. I don't have to worry about that at all. If you have the hypervisor platform, you can disable that, it's not needed. Identity Foundation, you can disable that, doesn't matter. Windows Process Activation Service, you can expand that. The .NET environment, you can disable that. However, I recommend to have these two on, the Configuration API and Process Model, because you might need it, but I recommend to leave this on to prevent any sort of stability issues. The Windows Projected File System, untick that. Windows Sandbox, untick that. Subsystem for Linux, if you do use it, leave this ticked. I do not use it because I don't have to. I haven't found a reason to use it yet, so I have it unticked. I do not use that. The TIFF filter, you can disable that. It's pretty much, well, not needed, so you can disable that. The work folders client, you can leave that enabled. I recommend that you have this enabled just in case you're working with any sort of server. Again, all of these are gonna be in the video description. I'm gonna let all of you guys know what you can or cannot disable. Even list a few things, a few explanations to those, what those mean, so you know what to do. So with this done, you would think that we're done. No, we're not actually. So one really important thing is we need to go to a really risky place. That's the Services app on Windows. So again, run this as an administrator. I guess it's gonna open up either on my second monitor or on my, alright, on my second monitor it is then. So I'm gonna list those just to let you know. So I recommend that you list those by the status type and find the regular manual ones, which in my case are this ones. Now here are a bunch of things you should disable. You can stop the video, disable these. Don't worry, it's not gonna affect anything. These are like set to manual, but this is all fun and dandy, but one thing we're after is the disable thing. So we're going to scroll down here. As you can see, here's not a lot that's disabled, but I recommend you just set it to disabled. So ignore the manual ones, go to disabled right away, and go through these. Now, in some cases, a way you can set it up to disable is double-click a service, for example, the Xbox Live Networking service. Click on Startup, type, set it to disabled, hit apply, hit OK, and it's gonna be set to disabled. Now, some of these won't let you be disabled at all. Again, feel free to pause the video if you need to like have these disabled. This is the Google stuff, so bear in mind I have those disabled because I do not need that. However, all the other ones that are in English normally, just set those to disabled. I do not use those tools like at all. So I'm gonna scroll a little bit. Okay, there's the automatic trigger. So onto the Microsoft APV app v client. Just have these disabled. It's fine, don't worry about it. The Malwarebytes service, as I mentioned before, I do have Malwarebytes, but I do not use it. I use it last, so I have that disabled. You just have to like use our brain a little bit if you're like really gonna use it or not. I have the Windows backup service disabled because I do not like use backups. If you do, however, use it, just to enable it, and it's fine. So again, feel free to pause the video, set it up to disabled if needed, and once you're done with that, I'm gonna show you a way to disable those that could not be previously disabled, so you can disable them later. So the reason why they cannot be disabled is they run as a system process, and again, to disable that, to prevent that from happening, we're going to go into the msconfig thing as we were before. Again, run it as administrator as I showed you before. Next, go into services. I'm gonna list them by disabled again. And if you have disabled these ones, some of these even contain the ones that could not be disabled normally. So this is gonna let you disable the services that you don't want running. Also, one cool thing to mention, this tutorial even counts for those who wanna disable Windows updates permanently. This is gonna disable them permanently, and you do not have to worry about anything. Bear in mind, this is after a few days of research, tweaking a lot of things, stress testing a lot of things to make sure it's rock solid, and like knock on wood, it didn't crash like at all. So just remember that. So after all of the services stuff has been done, I recommend that you reboot your computer, because if you do not, it may cause problems later. So once you reboot your computer, you should not only have more space, but it should feel a lot more snappy now, but that's not the ideal status. There's still one more step we have to do, and this one is the longest one in terms of taking time, because for this next one you're gonna leave out at least 7 to 10 hours depending on how fast your computer is. So 7 to 9 or 10 hours even, so bear that in mind. So the next thing is Tron itself. So Tron is a community-made bat file, which is basically a script. And what this is, it's a combination of different tools that allows you to, that you can leave running, like completely. It's completely automated, aside from one step. I believe it's the Malwarebytes step where you have to manually click scan. Yeah, it's actually that step. You have to click manually scan. It's gonna pop up with a Malwarebytes window. You have to manually click scan. You actually don't have to do that, but I recommend that you do it. It's gonna also have to remove any sort of viruses that you might have on your computer, so I recommend that you have that disabled. So also there's like another thing. This also fixes the issue with the microphone in Windows 10, so bear that in mind. It's using a ONO shut up Windows 10 or 10. This is gonna disable all the monitoring stuff that Microsoft has implemented into Windows 10. So bear that in mind. So Tron script, you download the file. So basically going down here, depending on where you are, I'm in the European Union, so I'm gonna click this link right here, and it's gonna send me over here to download the Tron script version 10.8.1. You click this, it's gonna start downloading. I do not have to download it because I have downloaded it before. It's gonna download it like this as a 7-zip file, so you can either run click and and open it, or run as administrator. Doesn't matter. It's gonna extract into a folder called Tron. Once it's all done, it's gonna be around I believe 700 megs. Yeah, it's like 686 megabytes, so make sure to remember that. And this is what you have to, what you'll have in the folder itself. here are the instructions. I actually recommended you go and read the instructions. Here are a few things set. One way I recommend you to run this is in what was it? In the Windows 10 safe mode, or just Windows safe mode. It's really recommended to run it that. I didn't originally, so it didn't actually like matter as much. But I recommend you that you run this in safe mode because it's gonna go through a lot of stuff, and safe mode has just the basic stuff enabled, so it's gonna go actually a little bit faster. But I recommended you run this in safe mode, and it's gonna disinfect your computer, get rid of any virus that was on that, also tweak a bunch of stuff for you, and get rid of most of the bloatware that might have come with your computer. It is like a really solid script. It's made by the community, so you don't have to worry as much. There are other versions of this that might have caused problems to other people back in the day, but just make sure you download from the link in the description and you should be fine. So how do you run this? You right click the Tron.bat file and you run this as administrator. It's gonna say loading, and I already did run it, so it doesn't apply to me. It's gonna update the SMRT drive database, so don't worry about that. Now the time it's gonna take, it's mostly gonna depend on how fast your computer is and how like, how should I say it? It's gonna do a lot of things to your computer, get rid of most of the stuff that you don't even need. However, I still recommend that you run this as an administrator under a safe mode, because it's gonna get rid of most of the things. Just relax. You can mostly leave this running. It is really a powerful tool. A way you can run it is just, it's gonna say you the like this disclaimer, like read it fully. So it's mostly on your responsibility if something happens. You can run into your own risk if something happens. So it's not their fault that something breaks, it's your fault most likely. So bear that in mind. They also say it right here, so you cannot blame them for this. Also, one important thing to remember, in order to run this, you just have to type in I agree, all in caps, like this. Now, I'm not gonna run it, but once you hit enter, it's gonna start. So don't worry, you can then leave it running. I'm not gonna run it because I already did run it. So that's that. Bear in mind, this is the longest step of them all. It's gonna take like 7 to 9 hours, even 10 hours, depending how fast your computer is. It's by itself. So once that's done, you have to reboot. And once you're done with that, you can actually check the performance. And normally Windows 10 would have like, what, 200 processes, and as you can see, I have like already most of those are gone. Bear in mind that I'm running a few apps right here, and stock with no apps running, it was around 200, so this is really solid. Memory use from 3 gigs of RAM went down to like, what was it, 1.5, which is really cool. So something to keep in mind. Yeah, it really helps a lot if you do all those things. Again, everything will be listed. I'm gonna most likely write up a Word document or a web document file to list all the things, all the stuff, possibly make a HTML file to show you all the things with pictures and stuff, so it's much easier to understand and open even, because there are some people that do not have Word installed, so I'm gonna make it most likely with that, or just a regular text file, but it's not gonna work as good as it should. So that's it. Again, bear in mind that the scripts will be a different name. Actually, you can do the We can name it like here, we prefer ice. So the debloat scripts, that's how it's gonna be named. If you open the folder, it's gonna have the debug Windows 10 and then the crap Windows 10, so that's that. So it's gonna be the debloat scripts file. And I'm gonna leave a link to Tron itself in the video description. I'm gonna link the version that I used so that there are no problems. Bear in mind that you can check out newer versions of Tron script. This is the one I found the best to use. So again, I'll link this amazing tool in the description, along with my scripts and steps that I showed you. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Once you do all of that, you should already see that your computer is much faster, and if you keep those basic things in mind, you should have even more space. Now there's actually one more thing I didn't show you, and that's if you run a command prompt or CMD as an administrator, you can go into power CFG and do /h and then type an off. This is going to disable hibernation, and this is gonna save you around, like, depending on how much memory you have in your system, it's gonna save that much space. So if you have, for example, 4 gigs of RAM like I did, it saved me like 4 to 5 gigs of space in my hard drive. So it's really cool to have that disabled. However, laptops are using this. So if you have a laptop, I recommend leaving this on. A simple step to turn it on is just typing it on instead of off. I'm not gonna bother opening it even or enabling it back. So that's just one thing to remember. But yeah, that's basically it. So if you have any sort of questions, anything you would like to ask me, just you can just ask me. It's alright. I'm here to help. So just don't worry about it. Don't stress it. Just ask if there's anything you want to know about, or have a bit more, or have a few more questions. I'm really happy to answer those. Again, this is with the help of the community, and also a lot of my personal things I know about Windows and how Windows works. So yeah, I hope I helped all of you guys. This should make Windows 10 a lot lighter and a lot faster. One thing that might actually be important for some of you is we go into settings and type in animations. Here, show animations in Windows 10, you click that. Go down here, it's going to be highlighted with this bar. Again, if you enable this, it's going to show these animations and they just add delay. So we just disable those, and yeah, just leave that disabled. You don't need that. You can also have just the background image. Again, you can disable it to give yourself a bit more RAM, but that's just a little tip to make Windows 10 feel a lot snappier. So I hope I helped all of you guys. If there are any sort of questions you have, just ask me. I'll leave also some of my social media down in the description, so you can contact me if something else happens. But yeah, after this you should be able to get the most of your computer no matter what configuration. In some games you should see a huge performance boost no matter what. Make sure you have the latest GPU drivers installed if for a graphics card if you have. I'm using a NVIDIA GeForce GT 730, so yeah, that's for my case. So that's pretty much it. I hope you guys liked this video. Make sure to comment, ask any sort of questions if you need, and I'm gonna upload it, make the file to show you all the things that you can disable or leave disabled, and I hope I'll see you guys real soon. So in the meantime, make sure to stay safe, have fun, and make sure to leave a like or comment, or even subscribe if you want to. And I'm not forcing any of you. It just depends on you. So yeah. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.